Well, I mean, you've been doing this for quite some time. Healthcare investing, technology investing, you've seen a lot of it, the evolution of this category as a whole. Uh, but I'm curious, the healthcare industry is so vast. It's probably one of the most difficult industries that at least I've ever looked at. It's so many companies, just healthcare software alone. We're not even talking about pharmaceuticals, medical devices. Uh, how do you filter this down? I mean, are you starting with specific diseases? Are you starting with platform plays? Is this dictated by what, your strategic LPs are interested in? How do you even start with this process?
Yeah, it is a big ocean, although I think a few things really help us distill it down to size. One is this sort of consumer-driven lens informed by our thesis. You'd be surprised at how effective it is at ruling things out, right? So not that these aren't big problems, but we spend no time in care coordination, no time in revenue cycle management, no time in procurement, no time in decision support for clinicians. I mean, there are a lot of things out there that are categories in and of themselves, which don't even show up on our radar screen because they don't align with our perspective. Then we have sort of two different approaches, but most of it is there are sort of a few, maybe 4 or 5 key markets where we have a lot of interest that include chronic care, aging in place, vulnerable populations, which encompass Medicaid, social determinants of health, gaps in care, ethnic and racial minorities, what we call health events, which are highly acute health situations that we deal with for a certain period of time. And so it doesn't look like a chronic condition, but it can be very destabilizing, expensive, confusing, scary. So that could be a heart attack or a stroke or a knee replacement or something that is all encompassing for 3, 4, 5 months and then goes away. And then lastly, on the delivery side, we spend a fair amount of time just looking at new models of care and how do people reimagine what primary care looks like, what specialty care looks like, how are we going to access it, how are we going to pay for it, and what are some of the innovations around that. And I think, I'm not sure if I mentioned, one of the last places we spend time on is aging at home and redefining what it means to be an aging American, and how do we think about solutions that help people live longer, healthier, better qualities of life, and not ones where we are institutionalizing people, extending life at any cost, regardless of quality. And so, obviously with our aging population, that's an important sector. So those are big swim lanes. When we really want to boil down this thesis and try and operationalize it, we use something that was created by one of my former partners called consumer hassle mapping, which is a process of laying out all the different pain points that we as consumers face in the market. And it could be around access, it could be around affordability, it could be around information transparency, it could be around health literacy, it could be around non-clinical things, meaning social services, transportation, food and nutrition, shelter, you name it. And then we assign a scoring model that measures potential impact on cost, quality, and outcomes. And we use that to help us identify, what are the most pressing problems, but not only what are the most pressing problems, but are these problems that somebody cares enough to pay to solve, right? So there are plenty of problems in healthcare, as we know. The question is, which are acute enough that somebody wants to pay to solve them? And so by using this model and rank ordering markets based on the size of the pain points and the potential interest in finding solutions, that really helps us narrow down the list. So those are a few different metrics and approaches we use that, believe it or not, we see a ton of deal flow, a few thousand deals a year. But our lens and our approach does a pretty good job at weeding out a lot of the wheat from the chaff.